I walked in the back door, man, and I robbed this place at gunpoint. And I share that a lot, and I don't romanticize about it, and I don't think it's cool.
Welcome back to But Are You Happy? My name is Roger Berry. I'm your host today, and we have a human performance coach, my boy Brandon Glade, BG. He's here with us today.
Howdy.
We're going to be talking about a lot of cool stuff today.
Amen, brother. We have all topics on the table.
Give me one thing in the last week that's been amazing for you. Like, what's one great thing in the last week that's happened?
I think every day is just the ability to wake up and be able to be an agent of change within your sphere of influence, your community, your family, your workplace, even social media platforms, as corny as that may sound. In the past week, 2 weeks almost too, man, I've walked through some heavy battles with people who have called on me with the pain and suffering I've put myself through to help and walk shoulder to shoulder with them through their pain and suffering. And as tough as that is, and the emotional wear and tear that someone trying to help can take, it's also, just an honor and a privilege to be called upon, because like I say, the only thing that used to be called upon me was the cops.
So you help, you're so much more than a human performance coach. You do a lot.
I generally, I've been kind of living by this ethos. I've been thinking a lot lately. We hear the term unsung heroes a lot, people that, and you look up, first of all, you look up the word unsung, and I believe it's not celebrated or praised. The beauty, I think, in that is there's a lot of them out there, a lot of great people that help and are agents of change and use their story, if you will, to help inspire others and be a means of support. For me, that's where it's just been the hugest aspect of being called upon and have to, rise to that occasion. And, I was talking to somebody at work today. What people don't see is that, when you're involved in certain programs that deal with recovery, the AAs, the NAs, your name's on a list. If you choose, they'll generally send a paper through the room and you can put your name and number down. Man, and you get calls from people you don't know, and that could be at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. and these people are broken and lonely, and you might be broken and lonely, but it's that day where you were able to step outside of your own little self, your own little pity party, or even a great day, and be of service. By the way, they say if it's not an inconvenience, you're not being of service. But no,
I get it. Yeah,
people. So
I can see that.
I do a lot to bring it back to the question you asked, and the stuff that I do that I love, and I'm grateful that people call me for is helping people, man. And it's not just sobriety. There's people out there that deal with eating issues. There's people out there that have shopping issues. There's people out there that gamble against their own and shop and against their own financial demise. There's so many aspects out there, and I try. I try to. Glade Pro is not fitness. It's not anything other than I'm branding myself. I'm marketing myself through the pain and suffering I put myself through. I don't blame it on anybody, but there's things called blessings in disguise, and if we don't share the turmoil with another brother or sister, that one thing you do or say can just change their life. Because I know people have done things and said things, whether they knew it or not, that helped me change for the better. Little one-liners, every little nuance, things that I take. So I'm grateful for that. But man, just trying to, even not have my own personal stuff going on, and that doesn't matter. A lot of times you'll never know the war that's going on inside somebody. So make sure you're nice and kind to people, because there's been a lot of times where I've just been a dick. I've been an asshole. I've been a jerk. As they say, your ego is not your amigo. And I've hurt people verbally, physically. Some people that were going through stuff I found out about, and you just feel horrible,
Yeah, you have no idea what they're going
dude,
through.
You just be like, freak out on somebody. Little, man, they just got done with their first bout of chemo or something like that. So those are things I think about. Not to get off on a tangent, but where I have to self-check myself. But revolved around that whole thing is, for me, just being transparent, being forthright on what I divulge with my own personal life and personal struggles within myself, my job, my family. That's Glade Pro, man. We're here for one another. All walks of life, all differences of belief and faith and political affiliations. That doesn't matter. The matters is one human helping the next. And if that's any kind of branding or marketing is Glade Pro, it's not that. I just so happen to be blessed to work with some great athletes, some great humans, some great business people, some amazing pillars in their communities, world champions, title holders, Olympic medalists, Olympic athletes. And this has all just come about of just me taking the next step through the promptings of God. And, that's another sticky subject for people. But, as I always say, believe in something or fall for anything. And the only way I can tell you that I do know there's God, because when the world will strip you of everything. And the only thing you're going to have left is God. People ask me, how do I know there's God? Well, I look outside, I see beautiful creations, and I see the wind. Not technically, but I see the effects. I can feel it. I can see its effect on a tree. So I know it's there. That's God to me too. He's a power outside yourself that can restore you to sanity. And not to get on this topic, but I'm really strong about that. I think that we're in a society who is frowned upon. I don't care, man. Christian, Catholic, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, just Buddhism, my Muslim brothers and sisters. I did prison time, man. I talked to people that practice those faiths, regardless if we did.
How long were you in prison?
Altogether about 6 years. I've done 3 terms of incarceration. So if you sweep those crumbs together, you're
a vet, bro.
So yeah, well.
You said what you did to yourself, right? You took ownership of everything.
Check. Is this thing on or did it fall out? Oh, there we go.
You're good. Yeah, you're good.
Check.
You're good. Yeah, you're good. You take ownership of everything. You say, hey, this is what I did to myself, because a lot of people are like, what happened to me was, or whatever it might be. And I've noticed myself, I always say, hey man, this is what I put myself through. No one else did this. No one else made that decision. How hard was it for you to come to terms with that? And what did it take for you to even come close to that point?
Well, there's a couple points. To come to terms with a lot of those things, The first one was my first term when I was just a confused kid, And let me go put this out there. I always tell people, man, my story is no reflection on how I was raised. My family had its problems of its own, as my mom used to say. Drugs and alcohol didn't run in the family, it galloped. But my parents were good. I was raised in a good home, a good Christian home. They put me in private schools because they already knew that I was a bat out of hell with the ADD kid that I was. But they wanted best for me. And I didn't think of that at the time. I just was like, all my friends I live with in my community all go to public schools and blah, blah, blah. But, fast forward to now, I'm so glad that I have that faith connection, which helps me with those things that I encounter in my day-to-day, and helps me be honest with people because, one thing that helps anybody approach somebody is your transparency and your honesty to a fault even, sometimes I might divulge too much, but, kind of like your assistant walks in and, we're talking about so-and-so and I said something to the effect of, yeah, well, thank God I stopped smoking crystal meth.
I mean, seriously,
that. But, it is what it is.
But
I still have my teeth.
Dude, that's the big one right there.
Here's another thing. If anybody's going to go through stuff in life, right, if you don't learn, also believe to joke about it and find some humor in it because you've healed from it, then you haven't healed from it.
Do you think that's when you've healed from it? When you can genuinely laugh about it?
Yeah, when you can laugh at it, and then also when you can see what you put yourself through, what it did to your family, your friends, and people that loved you and surrounded you too. So
yeah, because I know how it is to like put yourself through all this stuff, and then like you lose relationships, people change, they don't, you know what I mean? And that was for me, I think, really when I was like, man, everybody fucking hates me. You know what I mean? Like, no one wants to be around me.
I thought there's levels of that are true.
Oh, 100%.
Because when we do things, people generally dislike it and morphs into, hate, just heavy anger. But, I think a lot of that is due in part that pressure that becomes the agent of change. You either get worse, or you get better. And thankful that, and it doesn't always happen that first time. A lot of times it happens, look at my stories of constant, first, second, third, 3 times a charm. I hate to use that term.
What did you do to go to jail the first time?
First term, it's high on speed because I'm not that human when I'm sober, obviously. I robbed a local taco shop. And to this day, when I say that, I feel like a piece of shit, as I should.
Right.
But I was confused. It was stupid. Maybe I was, trying to live out a rap song that I liked. I walked in the back door, man, and I robbed this place at gunpoint. And I share that a lot, and I don't romanticize about it, and I don't think it's cool. But it is the truth, and it did happen. And the only way I can make things better is make sure I don't do that again and maybe help someone else make a good decision in their life. My second term, I got out. I tried to do better, tried to get back to meetings. I was still young, and then just kind of got back into partying and thinking I could manage it. And next thing you know, it's back to the hardcore shit, hanging out with gangsters. And we were rushing in. Here's our tweaker, dope fiend mentality and rationale is, let's rob drug dealers for their drugs and their drug money.
Because they can't call the fuck police. Yeah.
No. So that's how spun out. We were knowing that, hey, you also go to those houses or those apartments or those condos, that they're packing, there's shitty people in and out. But here's the deal, man. When you're in the street, there is no rules in the streets. So my second term, I got back into the crap again, and what
were you doing? What drugs?
Doing home invasions and on drug dealers, and finally got popped for one, and did my time and got out. And that was the toughest one because a lot of people that I did wrong and robbed, or people that knew me, probably thought something different of me. Like at that point, a lot of people after my first term knew I was just, screw off and just pretty much disowned me, and rightfully so.
What drugs were you using?
I was a tweaker, man. But
okay.
The funny part is, my third term kind of begot from this. So spun out on meth both terms. I even got high a little bit while I was in, and that was a tough moment because I was like, because they sneak everything in there too.
Of course.
And there's other stories in there as far as like, yeah, man, you can get drugs, whatever you want there. But that was, if I can't stop in here, when am I going to stop? So, and then by my third term, I blew my knee out skating. I had a buddy of mine that was like a big wakeboarder, and he is always injured. He blew his knees out. I called him. I was like, hey, dude, I didn't have insurance at the time. And he gives me a big old sandwich bag full of Norcos. And that was it. The rest was history. That turned into Oxycontins. Oxys got expensive, and that turned into just going in the hood and getting tar heroin. This is before fentanyl started coming in.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Around, but it was like...
Not what it is now. Because you can't even find heroin anymore. It's all fentanyl.
No, it's all fentanyl. It's too
I've talked to a couple people.
They don't need to grow a plant for that,
I've talked to...
Yeah, and then, that third term, what happened was I witnessed a man harassing a young teenage girl, and I'm not justifying it, but I cracked his freaking head open. And let me go out there and say this. This current day and age and this current administration is pressing the normalization of pedophilia in the terms of MAP, a minor attracted person, that's sick and demented. They're pushing for the chemical castration under the guise of gender affirmation of children through mutilation practices, and it's just insane right now. So I stand up for the kids. I stand up for also these women who have sacrificed a lifetime in sport to now deal with these woke, stupid programming. I don't know if that's going to get true. Out of there.
You're good.
I see enough podcasts where
no, you're
it's
good.
Called freedom of speech.
It is freedom of speech. Say whatever the fuck you want.
With men who have a little bit of a crisis in their mind and their health, and my heart goes out to them. That anybody that's born with a penis and thinks they should have had a vagina, that's called a mental health issue.
Dude,
that is not called,
God
made a mistake and gave me a different body. No, it doesn't work that way.
Here's a funny story about that. I'm on dating apps, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you're like swiping through, and when I signed up, it asks you, like, you like dudes or do you like chicks? It's going to be, one or the other.
Yeah. I get it.
I like chicks. There's no transgender option. And
so now
you'll be swiping,
apps,
bro,
right.
and you'll just get, Brian, who feels like a fucking
get
chick.
Apple with lipstick.
And it's like, I don't care. Do your own thing. Just like, not me, dog.
Yeah, and I'm not here to clown on nobody. I
don't take offense to it, but some of that shit's insane.
Don't force your ideologies on me.
Thank you.
Because I look at, man, and I'm going to stand up, man. A lot of this people that just hate this country and, with this, here's another thing.
My sister is going to see this and she's going to be like, oh my God, he's such an asshole. He doesn't have any. I was like, fuck you. Fuck that.
Here's the problem, though, right now, okay? We are dealing with, when news outlets currently push a narrative that we know is not objective truth. And what is the term objective truth? The God honest, forthright truth. When they are pushing an agenda and a narrative that is not objective truth and you have no choice, and they can do that at any given time, that's when you need to raise questions. Look at, man, I'm not trying to get Trump, Biden. I didn't vote for any of those schmucks anyways, so I'll just put that out there so you don't put me in a box, homie. But what you're seeing now with this current administration is just, I think Trump yanked the wheel so hard to the right that once the left got it back, they went wham. Dude, it's insane. Like, shout out to Matt Walsh. He did an amazing movie called What is a Woman? You can't find it anywhere. You literally have to look it up and go on his website, because guess what? Everyone that owns these big platforms, and this might be cut out too, wants their narrative pushed. And it doesn't. No,
keep it. We keep it all in here unless you tell me otherwise. Because, like, I think, like, for instance, if you read the Washington Post, you might as well just read a cartoon.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a joke.
It's insane.
It's a fucking joke. So that's why a lot of the info I get and a lot of the info I go for, I like to go straight to the person, or I like to kind of get a little bit of both opinions or facts.
Yes.
And then try to make a decision, because you can't really fucking believe anything you hear.
No, man, and the Foxes and the CNNs of the world are all guilty. So let's get that out there, you guys.
100%.
You can't blame one side for pushing a narrative and saying the other side's not. That doesn't work that way. We all know that. We all know it to be fact. You can see it out there. You can go. I don't have a Rogan. Hey, Jamie, can you go look that up?
Yeah, go look that up, bro.
But I have done my research, and here's another thing. Like, I work with a lot of athletes. I work with a lot of female athletes. And I'm going to call people out right now, and I don't care, and you guys can shun me and unfollow me. Boo-hoo. This is freedom of speech, and this is fact and objective truth. There's a skateboard promotion competition series called Exposure. It's all about promoting skateboarding to girls and women. Well, now they're, obviously, you already know where I'm getting with this. Now they're having contests where little Johnny, because his parents want to follow a fad to have trans kids because it's pop culture and cool, has a dress on, and he's competing in little Sally's division now. And this is not fair.
That's fucked. That's fucked.
Fair. Women have pushed for equality, inclusion for hundreds of years in this country and globally. And now, but hear me loud and clear. Look me in the eye through that camera and tell me that that's fair, that this parent is pretty much grooming their child, because I believe it to be a pop culture fad trend that you got to have a trans kid, just like all the movie stars. Let's let the girls be boys and little boys, dress up like little girls. It's out there. And you know what? That's fine. You can do that. But when you push it and groom it and kind of foster it and fluff it, that's where the freaking bullshit comes in. Because I grew up with an older sister. She could dress me up in a dress and makeup, and I could wear it for a day or an hour. Well, my parents let us be and let us cultivate our childhood together with the good stern.
Yeah, they weren't shoving it down your throat.
So fast forward to now, you have these entities, the Olympics, the World Surf League, are now telling these girls that there's a possibility you can have a trans athlete on just the fact of their hormonal count and their testosterone count. You bumped your fucking heads. And I'm trying not to use the F word in this whole thing, because I promised my mom I would. I really, it just sickens me. I feel for the parents of these kids that are especially it's girls, because here's the irony of all this one, right? Show me a woman that's trying to bulk up and bolster up and to go compete against men, because it's not going to happen. Oh, Brandon, are you a biologist? You don't have to be. Okay, just don't be an idiot, and don't tell me that genetic coding and your biological makeup don't play a part. You know, it is. I've studied. I work.
Well, like, men are naturally stronger than women. I don't care. So, like, if
the problem is there's people that are so brainwashed that you know, we don't care, but you know,
yeah, but it doesn't make any sense, right? Like, for me to be like, all right, I'm gonna go play. You know what? I feel like a chick, so I'm gonna go play in the WNBA, even though I'm already an NBA player.
Yeah.
Like, I forget who said it, but it was like somebody had spoken about this on another podcast. I don't remember which podcast it was, but they're like, could you imagine if fucking LeBron went to the NBA or the WNBA? What if LeBron woke up one day and he was like, dude, that dude would be averaging like $150, 20 assists.
It's already happened in MMA. You can look that up too. There's trans athletes that went in there and just knocked the eye out of some chick's orbital because, well, it's a man. What about men and trans men in prison are going to women's prison impregnating the inmates? The lunacy of all this.
No, for real.
I don't get how people accept it. I don't get how there's still parents.
If I went to prison, though, dude, I think I might head that route.
Well, here's the thing.
That's not I might go trans for some prison time.
Hey, my system says I can be trans and go to a women's prison and still get off. Like, they're sick. It's a sick twisted world. You might as well get sick with it. I won't. And again, I tell this to people. I post about it. Hashtag protect the children. Fight for women's rights still. God bless them. Because this current administration obviously does not care about children or women. Like I said earlier, it just, as of late, dude, it's really cheeved me off, Raj. But anyways, but I'm also known as a guy that I'll stand up for myself and what I believe in, and I'll fight it tooth and nail. But here's another thing is, I know that there's a term divide and conquer, and I do believe that I don't want to play into that because I do love everybody. I love all my brothers and sisters, no matter what you believe in and what you look like and how you vote, what sport you play, whatever the case may be. I truly do. I do love people. I love to help people. And I don't want, you know, I've already been dubbed transphobic. And, you know, a dear friend of mine I grew up with, man.
I don't think you're transphobic. You seem like somebody who's.
I don't care. I want people to be who they are, but when it starts to be a detriment to society, like it's becoming, where women are getting everything they've worked for infringed on because a man wants to identify as one and compete against them, is where it just becomes unfair. Or little Johnny.
It's a bathroom thing where you lose me because I have a 6-year-old. So, listen, I don't. It's not, and it is. Like, I don't care what anybody says. It's not the same thing. If a chick walks into the guy's bathroom, most guys are going to be like, I don't give a fuck, right? Other way around, again, it's just not the case.
But where it's an attack on women, because women ain't going to the dude's bathroom. No. Well, if you're at a club, I've seen them sneak into the stall. We already know that story. You're out partying.
Gang, baby. You gotta.
Anyway,
you gotta drop the bag sometimes,
bro, but,
you know?
Yeah, totally. But yeah, and that's another thing too, man. Men out there that have daughters that are still going to be like, yeah, dude, it identifies. No, man, they're sick. They're predators. They're coming for you. You know, and the thing is you know what's going to make things change is a trans athlete's going to injure a woman, and they're going to start looking at it differently. Or, you know, what if you got a LeBron to go to the WNBA? What if freaking Gabriel Medina decided to go compete in the women's division in the World Surf League, right?
I mean, I'd watch the fuck out of
Bethany
that.
Hamilton, God bless you. I know you stood up for, you know, for your thoughts and beliefs and faith, and you left the World Surf League. So, well, did I say her name right?
Yeah.
She got her arm bitten off by a shark, Bethany.
Oh, you know what? So I had just read about her and how interesting
She's an amazing woman. She's just insane surfer, still one arm.
How do you get on the fucking board with one arm? Like, how does that work?
Dude, I've surfed where she got her arm taken away from her, and to paddle back out after, you want to talk about, you know, there's many versions of PTSD, but here's the thing. By her love, you can tell that she's a woman of faith, you know, but she's also, here's another thing is, you know, God didn't make doormats either. You know, we're all warriors. We're all going to go through things and have to stand up for what we believe in. And these are dark times, man. But I think things can get better. But I also believe biblically, and Revelation doesn't end too well.
When you were in prison, I mean, any other times, walk me through that. Like, the first time specifically, you go in, I mean, everything's been stripped. I've done a couple of overnighters, but you know, but
time's time, man. I tell everybody.
I think everybody should be required to do at least a day in jail, just so everybody knows what it is.
Whether you did a couple hours in a drunk tank, or you did a couple years or a couple decades, like God's going to give you exactly what you need. Who's
that's a good way to say it. I like that.
For sure, man. I like that. For one night in a drunk tank can really fry somebody scared straight, as they say.
Well, people don't realize when you're sitting in there and you got nowhere to go, and it doesn't even if you had somewhere to go, you can't. If you want to just fresh air, you can't do it. It's everything.
Yeah, let's call a couple things out too, because I know there's a lot of dudes that there's a lot of. I'm not gonna say no names, but there's a lot of dudes that are amazing motivational coaches that have done a bunch of time. That now, like, there's a YouTuber, I could say his name, but he's a big prison guy, and he's all jacked.
Oh, I've seen him. He was in, like, San Quentin or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know where he did.
I think he was in San Quentin.
From here. I want to say he's from North County.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they, dude, he got out, he took his identity, his product, and branded himself through his experience and what he's been through. And, that dude's killing it. I think he lives in Ranch City. I think his name's Wes.
How many people do you see, though, that are just, this bothers me. What about motivational speakers who have never
been through anything?
Like, one of my favorites.
I'm sorry, man, but if you're below 35, you ain't a freaking life coach.
Yeah.
You've battled cancer 40 times, and shout out to all you, though, out there that are cancer battlers and survivors.
You know who's one of my favorite guys right now?
I hate the life coach thing, and
it drives me nuts.
A 25-year-old. But that's the thing nowadays is all y'all youngsters. That goes for you guys too. You guys grew up.
Gang, baby.
My buddy, shout out to Yuli. He calls it Google Smart. We didn't have that, right? We had to go to like Encyclopedia Britannica or make a phone call. So you got these youngsters that are like wise beyond their years. Yes, this is the age of information, and yes, but what you don't have is life experience. What you don't have is time on this planet, and that's a big game.
They just read a bunch of Instagram quotes.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Because, like, you know who I like is Inky Johnson.
That they're changing and having an impact in a positive way on people's lives. Hallelujah.
Yeah, I mean, but all right. So, like, I like Inky Johnson. You know who that is?
Yeah, I love Inky. Look at. You can just tell what he's already been through.
Bruh, he has got it going on. I love listening to Inky. Eric Thomas, dude, he's pretty good.
Your boy.
Yeah,
dude,
E.T., dude.
E.T., man, like all those guys. But look at, dude, and I'm not you don't need to go through some pressure cooker in life and be homeless or whatever the case may be, prison, to be a great motivational coach, speaker, and help change people's lives. Okay, people, let's get that out there.
But you got to do something more than.
Well, yes, and look at it. So everything is saturated now. So I don't care if you're going into podcasting or being a motivational speaker or whatever. I just over time, dude, I just freaking. I realized, like, when I got out, right, there's so many facets to the story, but my 2 terms I got to fight fire, right? My first term, I was it was a level 4 prison, but my points had dropped, and it's a point system on what security level you are. You like hardcore, double lifer, or you're not going to have, but you still have guys that have to clean up outside of the prison. I was an inmate who got into the firehouse my first term and was able to become well-versed in first aid. I mean, dude, when prison's cracked off, who scoops the bodies up is the inmate firefighters do. But don't get that twisted. In the California system, you have every prison's like a small city, so they have to have a fire department there.
Okay.
Because they house like 4,000 plus inmates. Now with California is so twisted and overcrowded, but every prison has a fire department, and generally in that department you have 8 inmate firefighters and like a couple captains and 1 chief that are all normal captains and chiefs.
Okay.
So my first term, we got to fight a little bit of fire, but I just ran a bunch of medical aids, so I got to see firsthand how heavy shit was on a different scale, and holding dudes' necks shut. They've been sliced open. I'm not sure where we were going with that question you asked.
How many people, though, have you, no, that's where I'm headed with it. When you see somebody sliced up, like, is that still something, it's going to fuck with you, something you remember? Is that something when you got out of prison, you were like, damn, I can get that out of my head?
It's a 2-front war for a guy like me. Here's what I mean by that. When I'm out here in public and I see people acting like punks, or I see big dudes that, just kind of abuse of power just because they're big, from what I've been through, whether you're a freaking midget or giant Samoan, sorry, little people, or anything in between. I'm just talking like, you know, if you're a punk, and I know because I've been there and I've watched people abuse of power, you know. Here's another thing too, man, and at least in my race in prison, and I'll call them out too, is the dudes that run it generally, because I got jumped by the skinheads because I wasn't going to go, okay, you guys can shoot dope in your arm that came in to the prison yard through a black dude's ass.
Yeah,
but you can put that dope in your body, but I can't go play basketball with my black brothers. I can't sit down and have a top ramen with them.
It's all
you can
separated.
sit and chop it up and hang out. Yeah, but I'm talking about the California system. It's very racial, but that's how the inmates run it. The whites are allies with the SAs, the Mexicans,
right?
The South Mexicans now.
Oh, we're allies with the Mexicans? Yeah. Oh, that's good news.
Well, yeah.
You know.
Anyways,
I would take it over
right.
the Asians,
So, but the way that they run it is anything's hypocritical, right? So I hated that, but I was also born and raised in a Christian home. When I got in there, I knew God had me there for a reason. So I seeked God while I was in there, and not out of I'm afraid of my life. I'm a tough kid, dude. I grew up with 2 older brothers. I grew up in a culture of surfing where we beat up and fight each other and rat pack and fight other surfers. And you know, my brother was a martial artist. So I got to be the crash test dummy. So that was another thing in high school. You weren't going to beat me up harder than my brother did. So I wasn't afraid of nobody. And then after going through prison, that was my worst thing is out here, how it affects me. Like I said, it was a 2-front war is, you know, a lot of motherfuckers I just want to slap.
I bet.
But I can't, and it doesn't mean it's right, but that's all part of me that I still need to work on because, you know, you see people act unjust in society, and you used to be that guy. Realize they need love. They don't need for you to be Mr. freaking alpha dog, you know. So those are things about me where it's a 2-front war, where that part of me that survived all that can really hit the wrong switch and go like, nothing scares me. Yeah, I might get my ass kicked and I might get killed, but I'm coming into this war heads full of steam. Or I can go, hey, man, people just need to be loved. And at the end of the day, that's what it is, Roger, is like people just need to be loved. And you know, after what I've gone through, and you'll see all these dudes on there that, you know, there's phones in prison now. You're tatted up. Dude, kids nowadays look like they've done back-to-back prison terms. They haven't even seen a drunk tank with all the face and hand tats. And
the face tats, yeah. I'm out on that. When you see these kids, you've been through the throes of addiction, the prison, the whole thing. Do you think there's such thing as a lost cause as a person? Like, is there such thing? I mean, because like you see like some of these tweakers, like we were talking about, they get skitsy and they get all fucked up and they're talking to themselves. Do people come back from that, or is it like that's just who you are now?
They do. They're and unfortunately there is lost causes out there. You know, I worked with a clinic. We're using the documentary, which we haven't talked about, but we will. We raised money for a clinic that's called a dual diagnosis clinic called Tender Love and Mercy out of Oceanside. And what I mean by that is you have people in there that have mental health issues, and you have people in there that have mental health issues because of the drug abuse, right? And, you know, too much fries the circuits. Look at me. No, but
you're better than most of the guys that I see standing on the street corner.
Right? You got people that have mental health issues because they use too many drugs. And you have people that self-medicate because they have mental health issues. So It's a tangled web. Either way, I was able to raise money for a place like that and see what firsthand what the front lines look like. But there's some people, man, that are dealing with clinical schizophrenia, and I wouldn't say it's a lost cause, but it's just something that family members in the mental health world have to deal with because if you don't here's the scary part is I know I actually there's a couple of good friends in my community here in Carlsbad that are clinical, and you see ones that are medicated and they're very lethargic, and they call there's a term for it, but they're just like the lights are on and no one's home. Flat affect. Look it up. It's a term for people that are just there, you know. And then you have then you have the opposite, people that are high and are also on a sick one mentally already without being high. So you couple those together, and that's what you see out in the streets right now.
Well, it's scary, dude, because during my issues, I had like mad suicidal thoughts and everything. So this one night, I got way too turned up. I did like an 8 ball of coke. I did like snorted like 3 Xanax bars. I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done living. You know, I'm like, let's go, bro. This is it. This is my time. So, anyways, they pink slipped me, right? And there was a guy that I was in there with who had schizophrenia, and it's kind of scary when you're sitting next to people like that because they're talking to somebody else and they're so unpredictable.
Yeah,
it was scary. That was what I'll tell you what. And I think that was in that moment I was like, man, I gotta stop doing cocaine.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah. There's very few people out there that can. They're there, and I know some that can, kind of turn that on and then turn that off.
But it can be. It doesn't fix itself, or like it, or is it one of those things that just can't get worse? You've already fried your brain. That's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, death is probably at that point almost the answer.
Okay.
It's a tough topic, man. There's so many layers to that cake with the mental health issue. Obviously, you couple that into homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole other can of worms to talk about, but that's what we were going to say. We're going to talk about everything. I've watched it here in my own beautiful community. Shout out to the Compass, letting us use this. Compass
thank
restaurant.
you to the
guys go try it
Compass.
if you're in Carlsbad, get the address.
We'll definitely
the Compass.
We'll shout them out for sure on the post when we put this together too.
Absolutely. But yeah, in my own community, I've watched it exponentially, obviously, because the powers that are in place right now are putting laws into effect that make criminals more brazen. It's true. It's out there. Shout out to a guy that I follow called The Street People of Los Angeles. The bio says documenting the third world we know as downtown LA.
It's fucked.
And it's a heavy page to follow. And what you do see is you see brazen outside robberies, and not that
Oh, that was the one we were talking about the other day. The one when I.
But I mean, so since COVID, since so many people, a lot of people just they wear flashy shit. When you're in a big spot like LA too, like you get the wrong dude that sees you have a glistening watch. They call it a follow home robbery. They're gonna follow to your house with call their homies. They already have it dialed in. That's the way that works. But that guy documents that on top of the homeless and mental health issues, and it really is. It's all sad. Like I don't want to sit here and just bag on it because what it is, it's a lost system that created a very lost infrastructure it's everywhere. It's downtown Chicago.
Why is it in these situations? Because when we flew in, we were walking over to our rental car place, and like people have motorhomes that don't work, don't register, and they just post up right outside businesses.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, and again, that has to do with the people that have
it's like a city, bro.
Yeah. Oh,
it's like
it's everywhere.
City.
They've gotten better in my city, and and shout out to my brothers and sisters in law enforcement, man. A lot of times, politically, their hands are tied. I work at a facility, and today we had our local fire department, our local police department in there, and they're doing some training and doing some evals, physical evals for, a lot of them, have a lot of injuries and stuff. So we help out with that, just for performance on the job. But, they have their hands tied. So when it comes to you can't not tell somebody to not be homeless. It just doesn't work that way. So where do you go from there? Well, you have to go from the top down. And that's one thing over time, instead of just going and blasting people without doing much research that I have done. And you get the wrong people voted in, you get these laws in place. Case in point, the famous one here in California, anything $900 and under, just don't even chase them. It's covered by the store's insurance, right? So you get people walking into Walmarts and Walgreens, and you in the East Coast, it's your version of Publix or Weigel's if you're in Tennessee.
Shout out the Pub Sub.
Yeah, and Pub Sub. Shout out wherever y'all are at. I need give me a Reuben if you got one.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, you got these places where these people are just putting these laws in order. So these people are going in and just loading up a cart for $900 or less and pushing it out. It's out there. It's all over.
We got to go to Walmart after this.
Yeah, totally. But it's there, right? And you'll see a lot of Good Samaritans try to jump in, but you'll see a lot of them just let them take it. And what happens is that builds, that snowballs. Now, if we're gonna do that, and you ain't gonna do shit, we're gonna rob people at gunpoint in freaking broad daylight.
So here's something interesting. I was watching the other day how they have in Portland in Oregon, they have legalized all these drugs, right? It's just the way it is. You can get down with whatever up to a certain point.
Yeah, and you got those open use areas.
Wild. So
go look at it and tell me you're okay with that.
So I watched this video the other day, and it was a news crew from British Columbia that was coming there because they're going to be doing the same thing. And they had rode along with the police.